Boa tarde, pessoal. Bem-vindos ao Conexão Metabooks número 2. Só uma explicação rápida para vocês. Nós fazemos a live em inglês e depois ela é gravada e em alguns dias nós disponibilizaremos a live legendada. A live número 1 já está disponível para vocês, legendada, e hoje nós estamos aqui para segunda. Então eu vou mudar para o inglês agora e vocês são muito bem-vindos. Obrigado por estar participando conosco. Hi, welcome, Bodour. Thank you for joining us at our second Conexão Metabooks.
Thank you, Ricardo. Thank you so much for the kind invitation. It's a pleasure to be here and to connect with Brazilian publishers again. As you know, I visited Sao Paulo a few years ago, and it's such a vibrant, amazing community, and it's really wonderful to be connected to this. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me introduce Bodour to our audience. Bodour is the Vice President of the International Publishers Association, IPA, and she is also founder of and CEO of Kalimat Group, Publishing Group, right? Based in Sharjah. She started Kalimat in 2007, and her idea was to publish good quality books for children in the Arab world. But with her leadership, the publishing house grew, and now the group has more than 400 books already published and 5 imprints under this umbrella. Bodour also is very active in social activities. She's passionate to integrate the scene of the publishing market from the UAE with the world. So she started the Emirates Publishers Association, and it started only with 13 publishers, and now has more than 108 publishers, members of this association. So as you can see, Bodour is very, very active in the book world. I was going to say book market, but she just not do only business. She is passionate. She distributes. She has a foundation distributing books to children's in some kind of needs, right, Bodour? So yes. She has a lot to share with us. And I'd like to start asking you, we are all living in a moment of crisis all around the world, and the same in Sharjah and around you. So how is this moment in the book market in the Arab world? What can you tell us? How is it going now?
So first of all, thank you for that kind introduction and a really wonderful explanation of what I do. I'm very passionate, as you said, about children's books, and also through my journey in Kalimat. It's been 12 years now since I've been the CEO and founder of Kalimat, and through my journey really ventured into other genres like translated fiction and cookbooks and comics and graphic novels and educational material. So for me, it's been a very rewarding journey and a very fulfilling task, I would say. And through this journey, I also had the opportunity to give back to the community through my foundation. So not only supporting the publishing industry by publishing books, but also donating books to those who are most in need. So we do a lot of work with our foundation in refugee camps, and especially for those communities that are isolated from their mother tongue, or like, for example, we had a great experience delivering Arabic books to the Arab community in Brazil as well. So that has been through the work of the foundation, is connecting them back to their mother tongue and their roots, so that they, even if they are in exile, even if they are out of their own country, they have an opportunity to still keep their language alive. So this has been a really fulfilling journey. And as you said, Ricardo, right now we're going through a very challenging time. I mean, the publishing industry is just one of the many, I would say, industries that's going to be affected by the COVID-19 crisis. To be honest with you, we are all trying our best to understand the impact of this and really to have an idea of how it will affect us and what are the best solutions. I would say we're still unsure of what is happening because a lot of us are watching and really assessing the situation. As IPA, we have conducted a lot of interviews and calls with our members just to understand what is happening on the ground. As you know, we have many members around the world that represent national associations. So for us to be in touch with them and really give them that support that is needed and really understand how their publishing industry has been affected. Hugo, Setzer, and myself are working right now on a post-COVID-19 strategy that we want to roll out by the end of this year. And we believe that the publishing industry needs a lot of support right now. As you know, a lot of book fairs have been canceled, and that's really one of the places, I would say, one of the most important places for business, for publishers. So we really need to come up with solutions. We need to look at our business models, and I would say really reassess our business models to see how we can adapt to this new situation. I don't believe we will go back to how it was before. I think we need to be a little bit creative in how we deal with this. And I would say there were three things, if I could give advice to publishers on how they can deal with this change that's happening. I would say, look at your business models, try to be as creative as possible in terms of innovation, because that's what we need right now. Try to be agile. The agile companies are the ones that are going to survive this transition. And try to be nimble, try to change as much as possible and adapt to the changes that are happening. It's not going to be easy, but those of us who are prepared to look at our own business models and make changes are the ones that are going to be, I would say, in a better position at the end of this crisis.
Good, thank you. You mentioned your book market. How big is the Arab or Sharjah book market today? Let's start with your area. How big is it?
Maybe I'll start with the Arab publishing market, okay, and then specifically go to the UAE, if that's okay. So if you look at the Arab world, we have about 447 million people who are Arabic speaking. So, from the Middle East to North Africa. So it is more or less a very huge market. If you think about it, it's larger than the UK, larger than US and Canada combined. Because, looking at all of those numbers, a lot of them are youth as well. And a lot of them are connected digitally. So it is, I would say, a huge opportunity for publishers because it is, I would say, potentially a huge market. And I use the word potentially here because a lot of our issues are with distribution, getting to those markets. But if we look at the actual size, I would say it is a big size. And in terms of readership, in the last 10 to 15 years, I would say readership has increased tremendously in the last 10 to 15 years. So we see there's more engagement with reading books. There's more awareness. There's more willingness and support in the publishing industry for that. And in terms of the UAE specifically, now the UAE, for those of you who are not really familiar with the UAE, it's quite a young country. So we were sort of like established in the 1970s. And at that time, only 6 books were published per year in the 70s. And we look at now and how the leap that has happened during this time. In the 80s, we had our first press and publication law in the UAE. The first association for writers was established around that time. In 1982, the first edition of Sharjah International Book Fair was launched. And as you know now, Sharjah International Book Fair is one of the most popular and biggest book fairs in the world. And so from these humble beginnings, we're very proud to see the progress that has happened in the UAE. Literacy levels have increased to about 96% in our population. As I said, a lot of them are young, a lot of them are digitally connected, and there's a big interest in readership and in getting their hands on reading materials. So it's a good place to be a publisher, I would say. And in terms of the value of our publishing industry, right now we are at 233 million US dollars is the value of our publishing industry, and we're the 34th largest in the world. We publish around 500 titles per year, and we export around $40 million worth per year. We are also one of the fastest growing publishing markets globally, so around 12% annually over the last decade. So these are just some numbers for the audience to understand a little bit of what's happening in our publishing world, in the Arab world and in the UAE specifically.
Absolutely. I think it's important for them to understand what you are talking about after that, of course. Yes. Let me ask you about the retail section of the Arabic world. If you have, this is it was not, didn't agree on this question before. So if you don't have the information, I'm sorry. But how big is the bookstores market in the UAE? Or, you have some numbers of bookstores or bookstore chain. There are more book chains or independent bookstore. How does that work there?
So we have both, actually. We have book chains. So we have some of the most famous ones like Kinokuniya, and we have Borders as well. So we're one of the few places that we have Borders. And we also have some independent booksellers as well. I don't have the numbers with me right now, but in terms of the kind of books that they stock. So a lot of them are very international because, as you know, the UAE is composed of a multilingual community. We have people from all over the world living in the UAE. So all of our booksellers stock books from different languages. And I also want to say that they are members of the EPA. So the EPA is the Emirates Publishers Association. And as you mentioned at the beginning, it was founded around 11 years ago by myself and a group of publishers. And we invited booksellers to join us in this association so that we can both be partners in terms of addressing any issues coming up in the UAE with regards to book sales or tariffs or policies and procedures. And I'm happy to say that we've tackled many challenges together. We have a great working relationship with between the booksellers and the publishers.
Nice. How is the digital book market in the Arab world? I've been there. I've been in Dubai 7 years ago, more or less. It was just in the beginning, and actually I was at the Abu Dhabi Book Fair, and they were just in the beginning of the digital book at that time. How is that right now? And has this crisis helped to increase that market?
Definitely, yes. I mean, I can talk a little bit about our members. So as you mentioned, we have just over 100 members in EPA, and many of them are digitally available. Their content is digitally available. So we have publishers who are only in digital, for example, in our EPA, and I believe that it's become more common right now for publishers to choose this format. In the past, I think there were issues with EPUB 3 translations into Arabic and how it was going to be difficult for that. But now I think a lot of those issues have been resolved. And I'm glad to say that I see I see that a lot with our publishers, that they are digitally enabled. In terms of what's happening right now, I think for those who were reluctant in the past to go digital, this pandemic has given us an opportunity to really fast track that process and just really take a leap of faith and go digital, because this is going to solve a lot of issues. And as I said before, that if there are any issues in the Arab region in terms of distribution, this has been really amplified right now with the COVID-19 crisis, because all book fairs have been canceled. And so publishers have to find new ways to get to consumers, and they have to find new ways to reach their market. And digital enables that, very easily. There's no border control or tariffs or shipments that have been delayed or anything like that, So it's really a golden opportunity, I would say, for publishers now to go digital.
Nice. Just let me say something to our audience. If you want to ask anything to Bodour, please feel free to write on our chat, and we can direct the questions to her. I don't know if we are going to have time to answer all the questions, but feel free to ask. Right, Bodour?
Yes, feel free. We'll do our best.
Good. Back to our conversation. I know that you are also close to the African book market as well. As you mentioned, you have there are some Arabic word in the North Africa, but I think you act more widely in Africa. So I guess you have some knowledge also about the book market in that area, in the African continent. Can you tell us a little bit about the book market in that region as well?
Sure. Gladly, yes. So when I became the vice president of IPA, one of my objectives really was to look at emerging markets where there's a big growth in the publishing industry. And of course, as you know, Latin America is one of those, but also Africa is one of the places where I noticed, first of all, a huge underrepresentation in IPA, and also a lot of potential. So these two issues really inspired me to be more interested in the African publishing industry. I mean, as you know, Africa is a rich continent, on all fronts, culturally, and also it's diverse, and there's a lot of interesting, diverse narratives that are coming out of Africa. So I asked myself, why is the African publishing industry not integrated into the global publishing market? And that was something that resonated with a lot of our EC members. And so I started the IPA regional seminars, really, to understand more about the African publishing market, to get close to the publishers there, to show them that we are very interested in their market, and to understand it more and find ways to collaborate with them. So the first one we held was in Lagos, and then the second one was in Nairobi. And both of these seminars were well attended, I would say. And we learned a lot. And in both of these events, we put together action plans for the region, really. And we had the committee made of 8 publishers from Africa who worked together on these action plans. And from these action plans, we managed to get the interest of Dubai Cares, which is an NGO based here in UAE, that funds a lot of educational projects in Africa. So they were very interested to partner up with us in IPA to come up with solutions and objectives that meet the challenges of the African publishing industry. And so we put together the IPA African Publishing Innovation Fund for 4 years, and with a generous grant from Dubai Cares for $800,000 US. And so during the next 4 years, we will work with publishers in Africa to come up with innovative projects that address some of the challenges that we see today. And I'm happy to say that for next year, we have identified the theme of digital education as one of our core themes for this fund. As you know, right now, learning has become online, and in Africa it's a big challenge because a lot of the schools don't have materials that are digitally enabled. Some of the areas are not connected to the internet, and so there's very huge challenges, and a lot of children will be out of school for a long time. So we wanted to be on the ground addressing these issues, and that's why the Publishing Fund is very important in terms of really reaching those who need us the most.
Nice, thank you. We have a question here, and I'm gonna share it with you. Thaisa Burani is asking, could you please talk a little bit more about the children's book market in the UAE?
Yes, definitely. So that's a really good question. You know, the children's book market in the UAE is thriving, I would say. Most of our publishers are children's book publishers. I can talk a little bit about my publishing house. So we publish around 400 books per year. I would say almost 3/4 of them are children's books. And there's a big thirst for knowledge in terms of children's literature. You know, I think it's going through a boom right now in the UAE. Many publishers are directing their attention on that. There's also a huge interest in buying and selling rights. So the EPA has organized a lot of matchmaking sessions with publishers around the world to exchange that rights in foreign languages. And I'm happy to say that Brazil is one of our biggest partners in this, and we've worked closely with the Brazilian publishers, where there have been some exchanges in rights. So some children in Brazil will be reading some stories by Arab publishers and vice versa. So yeah, I think it's a thriving industry in the UAE right now.
Nice, thank you. If anyone has more questions, please send it to us, and I'll keep asking Bodour a few more things. As you said in the beginning, you've been to Brazil. You know a little bit about our market. I know you were friends with many publishers here in Brazil. By the way, I must mention that we missed you at the São Paulo Book Fair 2 years ago.
Yeah, I'm sorry I couldn't be there. I was having a baby.
Yeah, we know that. It's a good reason.
I'm planning to come back, hopefully, once things are safe, once we're all safe to travel. I can't wait to come back and visit everyone at the next Sao Paulo Book Fair.
You'll be more than welcome. You know that.
Thank you.
So, you know Brazil, you know Africa, you know Arab world. Do you see areas where these three regions, let's say, can connect and can learn with each other, can connect and work together in this book market? What do you see in terms of connection of these areas?
Yes, I think there's huge opportunities, you know, for us to have cross-cultural exchange, I would say. When I joined IPA many years ago, there were not, I mean, in terms of representation on the EC level, it was mainly, I would say, European. And right now I see this huge interest in learning more from other markets, you know, and IPA has really opened its doors to be more inclusive and more diverse, having, you know, people from all over the world on our executive committee. So we have representation from Asia, from Latin America, and from Africa, as well as Europe and America and Australia. So we have a great diverse EC, and I think that's helped us a lot in opening up to new markets. And through our regional seminars, we've also done that. So we've actually IPA has gone to different parts of the world and put together events for members there. Really, first of all, to get to know them, to show them that we value them, and also to learn from them. And it's through these events that we see a lot of cross-cultural exchange. So publishers really learn about, you know, new writers that are coming up in those parts of the world. And as we become more digitally connected, I would say, readers are also looking for more diverse narratives. You know, readers want to learn more about Brazilian authors, about African authors, about Asian authors. And I think this is a wonderful way to get to know other cultures, to break down stereotypes, to get really close to people on the ground there, and really to demystify, any stereotypes or misconceptions that we may have because we haven't really understood that culture. So for me, it's very important also, not only in a publishing level, but also in a way of bringing humanity closer together.
Thank you. Dede, I guess it's Deborah, on Facebook. She is asking, what do you think are, or if you know, what are the themes, the subjects that could come as most important for books from now on, especially I would guess after the crisis. Do you see any special subjects that could be interesting for adults and both for children?
Well, I'll tell you something that I've noticed in terms of something positive that's happening right now because we're all in lockdown and stuck at home. I noticed, first of all, that readership has gone up tremendously. I don't know if it's the same in Brazil, but in many parts of the world, everybody is reading a lot more. You know, that pile of books that you have next to your bed that you say, I'm going to read it one day. This is the time, to actually read those books. And a lot of, myself included, a lot of people have had the time to do that right now. So in terms of readership, it's gone up tremendously. And I think publishers really have noticed that. And something else that we've noticed as well is there's this big interest in really learning about other people and how everybody else is doing around the world. So it's brought us closer together, I would say, because of lockdown. We've stopped socializing on a physical level, I would say. So we try to travel through our narrative, through our books, through what we're reading. We can't really get on a plane and go to Bali. So we're going to read about Bali in a book, So it's really created some new opportunities for us to learn more about other cultures. And I think that's a positive. So if any publishers are out there, I'd love to know more if that's actually happening in Brazil, if you notice that any book sales have gone up, and how you're going to respond to that. I suppose it's important for publishers to have an online store or to have a digital, a shop to be able to sell through their ebook store, for example, to get to readers. But it'll be interesting to know if that trend is also happening in Brazil.
Okay, thank you. Laura is writing to us here. She has been to the professional program at the Sharjah Book Fair. She congratulates you for the program. And she is asking to know a little bit more about the Publish Her project. I was going to talk about this more at the end of our conversation, but since she has asked it, so let's talk about that right now.
Yeah, let's bring it up. I mean, Publish Her is something very close to my heart. So, of course, I mean, I just want to start by saying that, being a woman in the publishing industry sometimes has had its challenges in the past, especially in global publishing and especially in IPA, because it's a very male-dominated industry, I would say. Things are changing right now. We're noticing a lot of female publishers rising to the top and getting positions in the top of their publishing houses. But in general, a lot of women tend to work in publishing and not see that progression so much. So I always share the story of me being the only woman in the room. So maybe some of the people listening here can relate to this. So I've been to many events and book fairs that are publishing related. And a lot of times in meetings, I'm the only woman in the room. And sometimes it can feel intimidating, sometimes it can feel very lonely for me to be. I look around and there's no other women there, and I always ask myself, why is that? Why are there so few women at the top of publishing companies? And so that's one of the reasons why I started Publish Her. Really is a place where we can create a community for female publishers, really bring them together, support them in terms of exchanging ideas and knowledge, capacity development. We share a lot of best practices, and we're working to come up with a mentorship scheme for some publishers. So we really want to see the young female publishers rise to the top through Publish Her. And we have a vibrant community on social media, so you can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. We also have a newsletter that you can subscribe to keep up to date with our news and events.
Nice project, Bodour. Congratulations for this initiative. Going back to more business talk, Maimona Jallow, I think that's how I say the name, is asking if are there any partnerships between publishers and telecommunication companies in UAE, Brazil, or other countries that we could emulate in Africa to increase access to e-learning?
Are there any, sorry, can you repeat that? Are there any?
Are there any, partnerships between publishers and telecommunication?
Okay, and telecommunications companies.
Yeah, companies.
Hi, Maimuna. I just want to say that Maimuna is one of our shortlisted, one of our candidates and winners of the Africa Publishing Innovation Fund, and she's doing amazing work in Kenya, and we're very proud of her, and her Africa Story Jukebox initiative is wonderful. We through telecommunications companies, I don't know what exactly the question means, but there are a lot of examples, I think, in the UAE where we have partnered up with entities outside of our sector, and I think that's important for publishers. I think a lot of the times publishers feel they need to stay in a box and they can't really communicate with people outside of their industry. And I think it's important for us not to put ourselves in that box and to be as flexible as possible. So there are a few, I would say, partnerships through individual publishers here in the UAE that have worked on events and activities together. And I'm happy to maybe do a bit more research and send that to Maimuna if she wants to really learn more.
Thank you. I think she was. We have something here in Brazil not related to e-learning, but more related to ebooks reading, where publishers do a partnership with some telecommunication company, and then people who use the telecommunication service receive parts of books or books they can read on their mobile, smartphones, thing like this. Probably is in that area. So, but anyway, thank you for the question. And
yeah, that sounds like a good example. I would also just want to add that now in UAE, there's a big boom in audiobooks. So that's something that we've noticed now, especially this year. I would say there is a huge demand for that, and especially after we've had like the lockdown and quarantine, and a lot of podcasts are coming up with really interesting audiobooks, and also we've had some great initiatives coming from some publishing houses that are doing specific audiobooks and giving them at discounted prices. So that's just something that I've also noticed this year. Probably in Brazil, you probably have something similar as well.
Yeah. Audiobooks and digital books are booming these days. It's just the same here. Our friend Gustavo Martinez, he's a lawyer specialized in rights. Maybe you know him. He's been to some book fairs and that side of the world. He's making two questions here. What do you think, what do you think of two initiatives, like one, libraries being encouraged to buy more books to lend to readers, and or bookstores creating book rental systems like a book Spotify or something? Have you heard about these ideas? What do you think about them?
Hi, Gustavo. Yes, we know each other. It's so good to have you listening in with us today. And thank you for those ideas. I think both of them are wonderful ideas. As I mentioned before, I think really now is the time to be creative. Now is the time for us, whether it doesn't matter who we are in the value chain, whether we are publishers, whether we're authors, translators, libraries, booksellers. I think we all need to really think about creative solutions for our businesses. And the more we can work together, the better. I would say one of the challenges that we've had is in the past is how do we give content at very discounted prices while still protecting the rights of authors? That's a discussion that we are having at IPA. We're having it in many other associations as well, to make sure that we really meet the demand, but at the same time, we honor and we protect authors' works. So that's a discussion that we've had. But I think in terms of the ideas that Gustavo has suggested, I think they're wonderful ideas. If we could really see that rolling out in this year, it would be fantastic.
Nice, thank you. Karin Ponza, you very well know her.
Yes.
Saying hi. Hi, Karin.
Hi, Karini.
And she's asking you to tell us a bit more of the project Read the World.
Yes.
Can you tell us?
For asking about Read the World, and thank you for joining and being part of this discussion. As you know, Karini is one of our members at the IPA EC, and one of the most active members, I would say, from Brazil in IPA, and we've known each other for a while now. And Read the World initiative is a wonderful initiative that was spearheaded by my chief of staff, Ben Stewart, just at the time when everything went into lockdown. So, really, we were just starting to get our head around the coronavirus pandemic. Everybody was working from home. Children were at home. And he came up with this wonderful idea of asking authors to read their books virtually online, whether it's through Instagram or Facebook Live or on YouTube. And when we've had such wonderful response to this initiative, and you can follow it through the hashtag Read the World and look at the videos on the IPA YouTube channel. And it's in collaboration with UNICEF and the WHO. So these three organizations, IPA, UNICEF, and WHO, are working together on this wonderful project. And I believe we've had some Brazilian authors in the past, but if anybody else is interested, please get in touch with me and I'll put you directly in touch with Ben to come up with some more virtual reading sessions for kids in Brazil. And we've done it in many languages. So language is not an issue. The more languages, the better. And it's really been one of the most successful IPA projects, I would say.
Nice project. Very nice. Good. Sorry, as we say, time flies. We are already 40 minutes on this live. Conversation is so good. That's going really nice. Thank you, everyone, for participating and asking. But before we go to the end, I want to mention another project. You are involved in so many projects, Bodour. Sorry for saying that. The Ubuntu Love Challenge. I was reading it. It touched me. It connects you to the African world again. Please tell us a little bit more about this project and how we can embrace it as well.
Thanks for bringing that up, Ricardo. So during the lockdown as well, this initiative started, and I just want to explain what Ubuntu means. Ubuntu is an African word, and it means I am because we are. which essentially means that I am connected to you and you are connected to me and we're connected to each other. So if something affects me, it affects my community, if it affects my family. And so we are all interwoven and intertwined in the human family. And it's a beautiful concept, you know, and I don't know in Brazil if you have something similar, but it really means that we need to be there for each other. And this is really resonates so much, especially now with what's happening with the pandemic. You know, people feel a loss of hope. People feel scared. People feel hopelessness and worry and stress. And if we can do something to help each other and uplift humanity, even if it's just a small gesture, it will resonate and it will have a ripple effect on our community. And that's why we set up the Ubuntu Love Challenge. It was set up between myself and my friend and fellow young global leader, Mamadou Touré, from the Ivory Coast, who was actually stranded here in the UAE and he couldn't leave, had to go back to his family in the Ivory Coast. And so we were having lunch together and he said, you know, Ubuntu is a concept that we have in Africa. And so we started brainstorming together and said, let's do something where we actually inspire people to help each other more, whether it's buying groceries for your neighbors, whether it's actually donating to a food bank, whether it's writing a poem or singing a song, or actually going the extra mile and supporting someone by giving them a skill, giving them a job, helping their family. This is the time where really humanity has to rise to the challenge. And that's the whole idea of Ubuntu Love Challenge. And we have our social media accounts for those who are interested to see how many people have taken the challenge. So we've had a few celebrities, and we've also had many people from all over the world. And this is a challenge for anybody to take. And it really starts at home. So do something for your community and you will see the effects immediately. So this is a call for everybody to be Ubuntu.
Nice. Can you give us the social media addresses,
Yes.
please? And later we can publish this also at our Facebook.
Sure. So our website is www.ubuntulovechallenge.org, and our Instagram is @ubuntulovechallenge, and the same for Facebook and the same for LinkedIn. And on Twitter, you'll find us @Ubuntu Challenge.
Good. Thank you. To finish, I have a question from a colleague here at Metabooks. It's a little bit related to the Publish Her project. She would like to ask you, in a business world with the majority still being male, what difficulties did you touch this briefly when you talked about the project, but maybe you can talk a little bit deeper. What difficulties did you face to implement your projects and ideas, and what would you say to those people willing to contribute for a more balanced workplace?
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank her, I think, for this question.
Karina.
Yeah, Karina. I want to thank Karina for this question because it touched me actually when I received it from you, and I really reflected on it. And when I reflect on my journey in publishing, I really feel grateful. I feel grateful for the experiences, for the challenges, because they made me who I am today. You know, I feel grateful for this journey, and I've met some amazing men and women who have really supported me in many ways. And for me, that's a blessing. And in the Arab world, as I mentioned before, specifically in the Arab world, I would attend meetings. And there was, I don't think there was much resistance as a woman, but I would say, stood out. You know, I felt like I was the only one there. Because it's historically this industry, especially in the Arab world, has been dominated by men. So so again, in the Arab world, I also was the only woman in the room. It felt very lonely sometimes. Sometimes it was intimidating. But it really helped me in my journey, really opened my eyes, because I felt if I was feeling like this, I'm sure there are a lot of women as well around the world who are also in the same position. What can I do to help them so that they don't feel what I was feeling in those meetings? I don't want them to go through what I went through. So on a global scale, yes, I think there are some differences, but there are also a lot of things that are in common. Obviously different cultures have different environments, but I think more or less that women, I would say across many industries, have felt this way before. We juggle a lot in terms of our responsibilities at home and at work. We struggle sometimes to make our voice heard in meetings. We feel a lot of pressure to be like a man sometimes, whereas we should embrace our feminine qualities and what we have and use it to our advantage. So there are a lot of things at play, and that's why Publish Her was important, really, to bring that balance back, to bring that equality back to publishing, where we have both voices represented, men and women. And that's why I think it was important for me to set up Publish Her. And I hope that we can grow and really embrace diversity and welcome, different voices to the room and different people to the room.
Thank you, Bodour. I just want to mention, I don't know if you had the chance to read here, but Alfredo Weisvlog is congratulating you for the life. Always inspiring, he says. So
thank you, Alfredo. And he's also a great role model in Brazil for a lot of publishers. And I had the pleasure to meet him as well. So thank you for that comment, Alfredo.
So we are getting to the end of our conversation. I'm so sorry I would stay here for the rest of the afternoon, but you need to go to bed, right? It's late in Sharjah. But thank you very, very much. I would open now for you to give your last message to our audience. If you want to say something that I haven't asked or whatever, the word is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ricardo. I just want to really take the time to thank you for reaching out. Thank you for thinking about me. Thank you for inviting me and giving me the space to express some of my thoughts and ideas with the Brazilian publishers. I feel very strongly connected to publishers in Brazil. I had the honor to meet many of them in Brazil and in other book fairs as well around the world. And I believe that there's a friendship there. It's not just a business relationship, but we have so much in common actually between our cultures that it was really a great place to be, amazing people to meet. So to everybody, I say obrigado. Thank you so much for the warm welcome when I came to Brazil. And I look forward to seeing many of you very, very soon. Stay safe. And hopefully we'll get through this and we'll be able to see each other again in a book fair soon.
Thank you. Thank you, Bodour. Thank you to everyone. We have people from the US, we have people from Africa. So our audience was broader than Brazil. Of course, we were focusing on Brazil, but we have many people watching us. Thank you, everyone. See you again. More or less 15 days again. We are doing this live every 2 weeks. So everyone is invited to follow Publishing News and Metabooks, and you can see who is going to be next. Thank you very much. Have a good evening, Bodour. Stay safe. Be happy. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.